This is News 25 with Deanna O'Donnell and Unette Gentry. News 25, local news you can count on. News is brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Give them a call, 727-9900. Today's news is also brought to you by Gunny's Air Conditioning and Heating. New service and repair. Call Gunny's 775-727-6800.
Welcome to News 25 here on KPVM TV and Ace Country Radio. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Unette Gentry. It is Thursday, September 8th.
A horrific stabbing death in Las Vegas involving a reporter doing his job on the front lines ends with a politician allegedly ending his life because of what Las Vegas Metro says is a report that the Las Vegas Review-Journal veteran investigative reporter had written and was about to release concerning the Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis. Gearman, who had investigated Tellis over allegations that Tellis was contributing to a hostile work environment and involved in an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. After the results of Gearman's investigation were published, Tellis lost his re-election bid to the Democratic primary. Sheriff Joe Lombardo held a press conference today to talk about the case that has Nevada shaken to its core.
I'm here to announce the arrest of 45-year-old Robert Tellis. He was booked in the Clark County Detention Center last night on the charge of open murder. This is a terrible and jarring homicide, one that has deeply impacted Las Vegas. Every murder is tragic, but the killing of a journalist is particularly troublesome. We hope the arrest of Tellis and his subsequent prosecution will ultimately provide a sense of justice for our community and Mr. Gearman's family. And I would like to add, our work is done in this case. Detectives are still shifting through information. So in other words, the case is still continuing. We have several leads we're still following up on to solidify the case and to put to bed other allegations. So at this point, I'd like to bring Dory Korn, captain of the Homicide Bureau, forward, and he will walk you through the timeline associated with the case.
As you know, we began our homicide investigation about 5 days ago on Saturday, September 3rd. This was after we received a 911 call of an unresponsive male that was found on the side of his home. Our preliminary investigation revealed that the unresponsive male was deceased as a result of stabbings. We also determined pretty quickly that the victim was Jeff Gearman, as the sheriff said. Jeff Gearman is a well-known investigative reporter, and that was taken into account immediately. Some of the other things that were developed pretty quickly by our homicide investigation was that the suspect, as you see here in the photo to my left, your right, was wearing an orange shirt with reflective stripes, a straw hat, and was carrying a duffel bag, in what was likely an attempt to either disguise his identity or conceal his identity. We also know that the suspect was walking westbound, approaching Gearman's home on Friday, September 2nd, the day prior to us being notified. On that morning, he approached Mr. Gearman's home and went to the side of the house. Shortly after, Gearman came outside of the garage door and then went to the side of the house, and ultimately an altercation took place between the suspect and the victim. We believe this happened around 11:18 a.m., and at that time, our victim was stabbed multiple times. As Sheriff Lombardo pointed out, he initiated major case protocol immediately based on the circumstances, which allowed us to bring in a lot more resources to address a lot of the tips and leads and information coming in from the public. Our detectives and everyone involved in this case have been working nonstop since Saturday. This is a very important case for everyone involved. And on day 2 of our major case protocol, we developed a very critical lead, which was a vehicle that we identified. It was a maroon-colored GMC Denali that was suspiciously driving around in the neighborhood on the morning of the murder, prior to the murder, and then certainly was there at the time when the murder happened. That vehicle had stopped multiple times throughout the neighborhood and was behaving suspiciously, or was suspicious. The second key piece on day 2 was we determined that the suspect wearing the orange shirt had fled in that vehicle, which connected the vehicle to the suspect. As I mentioned before in our earlier statements, we've been working all possible leads on this case. we've been exploring all theories and conducting simultaneous investigations into every piece of information we came across. There were two main areas that we were focused on early on. One was ensuring that this was not connected to a burglary series or anything of the sort. And then two, looking at any work-related grievances or conflicts related to Mr. Gehrman's work. We knew that as an investigative reporter, he had written several articles, and there were different allegations and statements about potential people that would be upset about it. One in particular that we identified early on was Robert Tellis as a person of interest, because Tellis was upset about articles that were being written by Gehrman as an investigative journalist that exposed potential wrongdoing, and Tellis had publicly expressed his issues with that reporting. And then ultimately, Tellis was also upset, from what we found out later, that there was additional reporting that was pending. So at that time, we began focusing a little bit more on that as we conducted all of our investigative efforts. The other thing that was discovered by our detectives was there was a vehicle that matched a suspect's vehicle description, that maroon GMC Denali that was parked in front of Tellis's home. It was registered to his wife. And then we ultimately developed video evidence that showed that that vehicle, the GMC Denali parked in front of Tellis's home, had departed around 9 a.m. in the morning on the day of the murder and returned around 12 p.m. just after the murder, which matched our timeline. We immediately began working on search warrants, and then we began searching. We executed those search warrants early yesterday morning, and that involved searching Tellis's home, his vehicles, and then also searching his body to collect a DNA sample to compare it to DNA recovered during the crime. At that time, as you noticed yesterday, we were still building our case, continuing our investigation, and we were waiting on DNA results. And so Tellis was released as we continued to build our case. Detectives continue to work very aggressively. As the sheriff pointed out, we've built a culture around here where we expect relentless follow-up on every case we're involved in. So they were relentless in their efforts. We worked as quickly as possible. And shortly after, we developed information that indicated Tellis was driving the GMC Denali the morning of the murder. We also, through the search warrant effort, we recovered a pair of shoes, as you'll see here on my screen here to the left, that matched the suspect's description. Also, as you can see, there's apparent blood on the shoes, and the shoes were cut, likely in a manner to try to destroy evidence. In addition to the shoes, we recovered a straw hat that was also cut in a manner that was likely to destroy the evidence. And that straw hat, as you can see, matches the one in the photo. Just something to point out, that black brim is actually the interior part of the hat, a sweatband, not the exterior part. But we analyzed the hat, analyzed the shoes, and then ultimately, one of the most important aspects of this investigation was waiting on the DNA results, and we received positive DNA results that showed Robert Tellis's DNA at the crime scene. At that time, we immediately initiated our arrest operation and planning. The goal was to take Tellis into custody as safely as possible. And thanks to the men and women of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and the leadership here, we were able to successfully execute that operation yesterday, and Tellis was taken into custody safely and arrested, as the sheriff talked about.
Clark County has issued a news release following the death of Jeff Gehrman. They say Gehrman's death is both shocking and tragic, and we join with our community in being stunned at how this situation has continued to evolve over the last few days. The public administrator is an elected position, and the county is reviewing its options under the law regarding Robert Tellis's current status as the public administrator. The safety of our county employees and the public is our top priority, and the county has suspended Mr. Tellis's access to county offices and property. County employees of the administrator's office are currently working from home, and the office will remain closed until a determination is made about when it can reopen. When county management was made aware of the personnel issues at the public administrator's office a couple of months ago, the decision was made to no longer have staff in the public administrator's office report to Mr. Tellis, and this solution will remain in place until the public elects a new public administrator this November. Clark County continues to cooperate with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department on this active investigation. Our condolences are with Jeff Gehrman's family, friends, and colleagues at the Review Journal. And in other local news, the Nye County Sheriff's Office issues an arrest for a landlord who they say dragged his tenant behind his vehicle, leaving that man on the side of the road deceased.
It's Captain Barukowitz reporting to you about the homicide that occurred on September 6th. On September 6, 2022, NCSO deputies were dispatched to a report of a body on the side of the road in the area of Kingsway and Camelot Circle in Pahrump. Deputies responded and discovered a deceased individual laying on the side of the road. It was initially determined that the body had been drugged to that location. Investigators responded and followed a trail of blood and clothing to an address on Mary Lou, where it appeared the body drag began. Investigators identified that the deceased was Frank Brink, age 66, of Pahrump. The property owner was identified as William Stanley, age 70, of Pahrump. It was identified that Brink and Stanley had a landlord-tenant relationship. The investigation revealed that Stanley and Brink had gotten into an argument, and Stanley had run Brink over with his vehicle at the property. He subsequently tied Brink to his vehicle and dragged him to the location where he was ultimately found by deputies. Investigators executed a search warrant at the residence and obtained evidence. Stanley was arrested for open murder and was booked into the Nye County Detention Center without bail.
And in more tragic, fatal news, a crash, triple crash. Those details and new charges after the break.
You're watching News 25, the most recognized and farthest reaching local news in Nye County. News 25, local news you can count on. This segment of News 25 is brought to you by Lisa Spahitz and Mike Plasmeyer at Country Financial Insurance. Auto, home, life, and commercial. 775-727-8920.
Welcome back to News 25. Well, a man who was arrested last year after a triple fatal crash on U.S. Highway 95 is now facing additional charges in this case. The Nye County District Attorney Chris Arabia and the Nye County District Attorney's Office says that they have added multiple counts of murder to the criminal complaint against a Utah resident who allegedly killed 3 people and caused serious injury to several others in a head-on multi-car crash on U.S. Highway 95 last year. Christos Varaknos is also facing charges of DUI and reckless driving causing death and substantial bodily harm in connection with the November 2021 crash just south of Beatty. Additionally, Varaknos is charged with killing his dog, who was ejected during the crash. Arabia says that they have been working hard for many months and are determined to see justice done for the father and his 2 children who died and for all the other victims. He adds that while it is unusual to see murder charges alongside a DUI and reckless, that they are confident that this case and the evidence will show that this crash was an intentional act, and so that they believe Nevada law contemplates murder charges. The murder charges could carry a life sentence. All 7 of the DUI death or substantial injury charges carry a 2 to 20-year prison sentence. The 7 reckless death and substantial injury charges carry 1 to 6 year sentences, and the charge for killing the dog carries a 1 to 4 year sentence. The preliminary hearing in this case is set for September 12th in the Beatty Justice Court.
And starting Monday, September 12th, NDOT will close access to Floorspar Canyon Road near Beatty for 2 weeks. The detour route will be located at Cottonwood Lane, where motorists can travel south on the access road running behind the Amargosa Valley River, meeting up with Floorspar Canyon Road further south. The closure is needed to complete installation of a new concrete drainage pipe and need walls. It is expected that the closure will be needed for the entire 2 weeks. If more time is needed, we will provide additional information. As the majority of drivers traveling this road are usually miners and drillers, we expect minimal impact to the traveling public. NDOT encourages motorists to use caution while traveling through work zones and the detour route.
And as you may have already heard, Queen Elizabeth II has died peacefully today at her Scottish estate at the age of 96 after reigning for 70 years in England. The Queen came to the throne in 1952 and witnessed enormous social change. Her son, King Charles III, said the death of his beloved mother was a moment of great sadness for him and his family, that her loss would be deeply felt around the world, and of course it has. The King and his wife, Camilla, Now, Queen Consort will return to London on Friday. Buckingham Palace said he is expected to address the nation on that day. Senior royals had gathered at Balmoral after the Queen's doctors became concerned about her death earlier today.
And a report released today by the Las Vegas Realtors shows home prices declining for the third straight month, with fewer homes selling and more available for sale. LVR reports that the median price of existing single-family homes sold in Southern Nevada through its multiple listing services during August was $450,000. That's down from the all-time record price of $482,000 in May and down 3% from July. The median home price is still up 11% from $405,000 1 year ago. Likewise, the median price of local condos and townhomes sold in August decreased to $264,000. That's down nearly 3% from the previous month and down from the all-time record price of $285,000 in May. Condo and townhome prices are still up 16% from $229,000 in August of 2021.
Well, Nye County Clerk Mark Comp will administer the 2022 general election using only paper ballots for both mail-in and at the polls, with provisions for ADA compliance. The clerk's office will conduct a parallel electronic tabulation of the voted paper ballots along with a hand count of those ballots. While the tabulation is used to count the mail-in ballots currently, the electronic counting will be extended to the paper ballots voted at the polls. A hand count will also be performed in all the paper ballots, both mail-in and at the polls, as requested by the Nye County Board of Commissioners. All registration verification processes, both at the polls and for mail-in ballots, will remain essentially the same. On March 15th, the County Commission voted 5-0 to request the Nye County Clerk to consider administering the 2022 primary and general elections using only paper ballots and hand counting the paper ballots submitted by the Nye County voters to ensure accuracy and transparency of the democratic voting process. Since the hand count process will be performed by citizen volunteers who are registered voters, the clerk is seeking help from registered voters from all political parties and nonpartisan offices to participate in the process. A hand count will be conducted weekdays during the period starting October 25th through November 10th. You can go to the Nye County Clerk's website for more information. News 25 will return right after this break.
You're watching News 25, brought to you by Mountain West Lawyer, Injury Attorneys, 727-9500. Also brought to you by Silver State Health. Visit silverstatehealth.org or call 702-471-0420 for an appointment. News 25, local news you can count on.
Welcome back. Now here is your student news with our student reporter, Rory Rosell.
Hey Trojans, it's Rory Rosso with your weekly student news report. This week we have our first home football game tomorrow, Friday night at Pahrump Valley High School. Junior varsity was canceled, but varsity is at 7 p.m., so everyone make sure to dress in a Western theme. Bring your hats and your boots. Seniors, make sure to buy your senior shirts before September 16th, because that is when orders close. You can buy your shirts for $10, crew necks for $15, or you can even buy the bundle, which comes with both, for $20. Students, remember this month is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. If you or someone you know is in need of help, you can dial 988. This is a national suicide and crisis hotline. This is not just for students at Pahrump Valley High School, this is for everyone. Students, this Sunday is September 11th. Pahrump Valley Rotary Club is holding a 9/11 memorial ceremony on Sunday beginning at 8:30 a.m. in the Calvada I. Everyone is welcome to attend. And that is it for this week, Trojans. I am Rory Rossell with your weekly student news report. Bye.
News 25 Weather Cam is brought to you by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorney's Office in Pahrump. In a wreck, need a check? Call 702-877-1500.
Well, despite the weather, despite any tragedy, we're still being given signs and wonders in the sky like this beautiful rainbow, even in the midst of clouds. More news and your weather after the break.
News 25 Weather is brought to you by Dairy Council of Nevada, The splash of cream in your coffee, the dollop of sour cream on your burrito, the melted toasty cheese on your pizza. Undeniably delicious, undeniably dairy. Enjoy what's real.
Hi, good evening, Nevada. It's John Kohler from the KPVM Channel 25 Weather Studios, and kind of a wacky weather map. You don't see this. Identical weather twins in Fernley and Fallon. 100 degrees for a high, 58 for a low. Kind of an impressive jump between daytime and nighttime. Carson City, also in the mix. 97 was the high today. 92 out in Tonopah. That's your cool spot. 95 in Goldfield. Super pleasant in Beatty and Amargosa. Not 106 degrees. They're also weather twins on the high side. Las Vegas close behind at 103. And Death Valley sweating it at 117. And here in the paradise of Pahrump, let's take a look. 99, that's our current temperature. It's a little bit toastier earlier, 103 degrees. South-southwesterly winds plagued us this afternoon at 13 miles per hour, doing things to my umbrella that are just unspeakable. Sun rose this morning at 6:21 a.m., setting this evening at 7:01. We are giving up buckets of daylight by the day, so enjoy it while you can. But fans of the night, rejoice. We're heading for a low tonight of 77 degrees. And 27% humidity setting us up for tomorrow, and some clouds I'm fearing. But yes, clouds. Look, clouds. Next 4 or 5 days. It's one last squall from the monsoon season. We've got the temperatures dipping down to 80 degrees on Saturday with a big 56% chance of rain. Going to be a little bit of wind action, about 10 miles per hour throughout the week. But Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, little bits of spits and squalls here and there as the weather demons take away the rest of the monsoon season. And rejoice. Wednesday, Thursday, sunshine, 12, 9-mile-an-hour winds, temperatures in the high 80s and low 90s, setting us up for a really nice week of weather next week. But this weekend, a little bit to contend with. Don't you worry about it. Just batten the hatches, and we'll see you on the other side. All right, back to the desk. Here's Deanna.
Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Night.